Yes.
You good? All right, let's call the meeting of the August 12th Finance Committee meeting of Stephenson County to order at 6:03 p.m. on tardy night. We'll move on to item 2.0, prayer. Would anybody like to do that?
Do that.
Thank you, Steve.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for each member here this evening. We ask that you would guide us as we look to the business of our county and ask that you would bless the decisions, bless the people, and bless our county. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight. Motion, second. Grant, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Review and approval of meeting minutes from July 15th, 2024 meeting. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Mr. Complain, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have claims in the amount of cash requirements, $390,398.80. Manuals of $621,285.38 for a total of $1,011,684.18. What is the committee's pleasure with that?
Move to approve the claims.
I hear a motion to approve by Mr. Complain, Mr. Jogers. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, public comments. Comments. Okay, hearing none. Reports committee. Madam McBride, you have the floor.
Good evening. Please. So I am here to talk about the property casualty and benefits side of things. The first couple of pages I'll skip through pretty quickly. You know all about Diamond Brothers. Our philosophy is to affect and help the county's culture, compliance, communications, and hopefully that impacts costs coming down. Trying to keep the internal four walls the best we can in terms of keeping claims down, safety programming, employee engagement that helps with the external forces that you will see on the next page. The property casualty work market outlook has not changed. I've talked about this several times before. Insurance is becoming more and more expensive, just like everything else is in the world, as we know. Again, we try to make sure our internal four walls are as tip-top shape as we can. We'll talk about that in a minute. Next page is upcoming important dates. This is really, really important to spend some time on it. I want you guys to understand the timeline. We are about to kick off the solicitation of quotes season, I will call it. Property casualty renews on December 1st. Benefits renew 1/1. So we are starting the process. We've already started it. We've sent a provisional cancellation letter to be signed. That's just a formality. ICRMT, your current carrier, requires a 90-day notice if we intend to move our business elsewhere. Doesn't mean we have to, doesn't mean we're obligated to, but in order to give us the flexibility to move, we need to let them know, hey, we might move. And so that's all that is. So I sent that to Georgia. Tracy sent that to you? Yeah, last week. So we need to get that in. We have plenty of time. So that kind of starts the process. And again, the application or the underwriting process is very application driven. So there's tons and tons of questionnaires to fill out and review, and we send those to mostly Georgia. There's a couple that go out to the nursing center and other departments. And each carrier has different requirements there. The main thing I want you to take away on these upcoming dates is we are marching towards a proposal or recommendation on both property casualty and benefits on November 8th to this committee. So that's pretty standard timeline. It's pretty tight. go with it. I'll talk about more details there in a minute. Any questions on the PNC renewal timeline?
Gary, last year we moved the healthcare, we extended that month so. Is there any reason we shouldn't do that with this?
So you mean the benefits? Or you mean
Everything-
property casualty?
Yeah, everything's sitting on the first of the year. Would it make any, I don't know if it would make any difference, but it seems like it would be projected then in the next budget year. Still, even though we were doing December, we're still in last year's budget.
Correct. ICRMT only renews on 12/1. If we stay with ICRMT, they will not move it. We move to a different carrier, maybe.
I think we could get a 13-month policy.
We could not from ICRMT.
No, I mean, if we
With
could.
another carrier, we might, yes, and we will request that.
Just a thought.
We can do it. The main thing is, I wouldn't get too hung up on that. The main thing really is approval by committee and the board. That's really where we're tied to, right? So we can ask, I hope I answered your question. Yeah. Looking at the benefits renewal, we are on pretty much the same timeline, a little bit tighter. Only because in order to solicit quotes for benefits, I have to have the renewal from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Traditionally, they release the renewal around anywhere between 10/1 and 10/15. That's a really tight turnaround in terms of getting this out to market. I'm sorry, getting it compared to what other quotes we get back and then making a recommendation. We have already asked Blue Cross Blue Shield to accelerate the release of the renewal to get it moved up to sometime in September. We think we'll be able to get that. More about that in a minute. But again, we are marching towards the November 8th presentation to this committee, and then again, approval at the board. It is critical to get the board approval for the benefits at that November 12th meeting. Hopefully, we won't have to go later than that because then we have to have open enrollment in sometime in December. We'd like to get it done before the holidays, obviously, because it renews on 1/1. Any questions on that?
Make sense?
So the next page is the PNC overview. Just a reminder what we're insuring. Property, 17 different locations. Again, I've reviewed this with you all. This is just a reminder. On there, you can see that there's a $5,000 deductible for all property coverages. The liability side, which is general liability, public officials, employment practices, cyber abuse, and law enforcement. Those are all 1 million, 3 million in coverages. You have an umbrella for 5 million. I highlighted that because I think I would advise us to get quotes for higher limits. Most municipalities and public entities have higher umbrella limits than 5 million. For example, I insure Highland Community College and they have a $10 million umbrella. You guys have a nursing home and a sheriff and public highways department. I think we ought to consider it. So, just a point of discussion, if you're okay with me soliciting quotes for 10 million, in addition to the 5, I think it'd be worth a discussion.
Anybody have any issues with that? I think it makes sense.
Doesn't hurt to quote, you're not obligated for it.
Costs are not going
Cost not, your liability isn't going down.
Coming from somebody's.
Correct. We are a very lawsuit happy society. I list the deductibles out there. You have a $50,000 law enforcement liability deductible. You have 5,000 general liability deductible. All other liability type deductibles are 25,000. Workers' comp, you have a $50,000 deductible. I recommend keeping these deductibles. We can look, when we go out to quote, other programs probably have different levels of deductibles. I think these are good levels of deductibles. You do want to be self-insured to a point. And each of these deductibles are budgeted by department anyways. I don't recommend going lower. We can look at higher. But I just want you to see that these are the deductible levels that we have. Make sense?
Carrie, what would be the impact of going like with a 25K across the board?
I'll find out. It's not as much as you think it would be. It's not as much as you think it would be. And that would be something we would have to budget for too.
Sure.
So, I will request those.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Yes, sir.
I have a question more for Georgia. Have we notified collective bargaining units that we are coming up on renewal again?
Formal notice, but they were told last year that it was a 1 year.
Can we get that out of this in the work rates? Thank you.
Next page, you've seen this data before, 21 through 24, property casualty and work comp claims by department for the last several years. This is the same data as I presented before. On the next page is year-to-date claims. Can't do a whole lot about past claims, but certainly the claims that we have for this year, there are, we're looking pretty good. I would be more pleased with 0 claims, but these claims aren't as bad as it has been in the past. So the safety programming is definitely working. The large claim you see on the first, the motor vehicle accident, it's for 25,000. That is from a motor vehicle who hit and destroyed a pier or a guardrail. And that was property damage for a guardrail. That driver was uninsured, so the county had to pay for that. The rest of these are very small. No claim is insignificant, but these are small claims that we kind of expect that kind of happens. So I'm pleased with the claims activity for sure, based on past history. They're looking pretty good. Claims pending that are not in this data is storm damage at the park. Which park is that again? Georgia?
Yes.
Kent's Park. And then there's HVAC damage at the courthouse, part of the sheriff's department. We're waiting on how big those claims are going to be. We don't know yet. We're still waiting on data.
Nothing at the nursing home?
Good.
Well, I was just thinking if that we made an entire year with a plane, that should help us with that.
I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
Pull that. Next page, colorful page was last year's marketing efforts. So this is, bear with me on this. This is our marketing efforts. Anything in green are carriers that said yes, they would quote. Anything in yellow, they would quote, but only a couple of lines. Anything in red were declinations. So if you'll see, if you can kind of read across, the ones in red, a lot of them would not quote because we had a nursing home. So this year, ICRMT has informed us that their reinsurers are only allowing them to quote $1 million in GL and $1 million in excess. Right now, your coverage is $1 million underlying and $5 million in excess, for a total of $6 million. So we have 2 options on the nursing home. Keep the $1 million GL and excess and all other lines with ICRMT and go out and get an additional $4 million over the nursing home. Okay. Or carve the nursing home out altogether. If we carve the nursing home altogether, some of these reds turn into greens on the marketing efforts. So we're going to take 2 different paths. We're going to see what ICRMT comes in with the pricing, go outside and get the additional $4 million on the casualty side. And then also carve everything out of the nursing home and do that as a standalone and see what that does for everything else. Does that make sense?
What would be our chances of getting anyone to quote on the nursing home?
There are several carriers out there that focus on healthcare facilities, nursing homes. So the chances are good.
Imagine it's gonna be more expensive.
The chances of getting a quote are good. The chances of the pricing being good, it's a different story.
Barry, what's the risk on that, losing that additional $4 million? If we were to do nothing, just renew it? Just out of curiosity.
Not operate a nursing home with only $1 million umbrella.
But doesn't our 5 million overall umbrella cover any of that?
The reinsurers will not let ICMT give you more than $1 million GL and $1 million excess.
Thank you.
Kind of want to let that sink in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the bottom line here is we send submissions out to all of our markets, and there are, I don't know, count them up there, maybe 20. And we're going to ask for different things from different people. Once we get the information back, I will lay all of that out for the committee to let you know, here's the results of the marketing efforts. Here's the pricing. I'll give side by sides, and then we'll give a recommendation.
Super.
Good.
Any questions on that?
Switching gears to benefits, again, kind of giving a recap for the last 4 years. Back in 2020 to 2022, we only had 2 plans. And in 2020, we moved from large local government health plan to Blue Cross Blue Shield, state plan to Blue Cross. For some significant savings, it was a good plan. Then so that was the 2-year plan. And then in 2022, we expanded the offerings. And then in 2024, we kind of contracted the offerings, simplified. We also changed the renewal date from October 1st to January 1st. That box down below is where we are currently. The question I have for the committee is, do we want to change these plan offerings, or do we want to keep the same plans? I will offer you my recommendation if you guys don't have any thoughts off the top here.
I just, for me, in speaking with employees, I think we should stay.
So if you recall, getting rid of that 0 deductible plan, the point of this slide is to show the journey we've been on in the last 4 years, right? We all know that benefits are super expensive and they're not getting cheaper. So what do we do in our 4 walls to help ourselves with cutting costs? So we got rid of the 0 deductible plan, and we did do the deposits on the HSA for the employees. And so it seems to be working well. Again, this is not going to be an overnight thing to where we are flush with cash, so to speak, when we do this. There's still not quite enough claims data for me to say, hey, here's where we're seeing trends. I'd like to have a couple more months. I'll talk about that in a minute. I would recommend the same thing. Keep the same types of plan offerings so that the employees are used to it and they've gotten used to it over the year. We're asking for feedback. They seem to be, I've not heard anything negative, unless anyone else, you haven't heard anything negative.
Feedback at the department head meeting has been very positive. The people that were hesitant with the HSAs really like it, that they've gotten it.
Right.
And I agree with that. I was in the meeting with Georgia and that conversation came up and they said that they're happy.
It's great. Good. I would recommend we stay with these plans. Now, when I solicit quotes, I will get a myriad of 50 different plans. And we can review those and we'll talk about the costs and the pros and cons. But I think to keep things consistent, depending on the cost, assuming the cost, I would recommend keeping these 4 plans for another year. Plan designs, meaning the $1,500 HSA, the $1,000 deductible, the $2,500. These plan designs, we'll go out to a bunch of different benefits carriers and solicit quotes at these same plan designs and see what they come back with. but I recommend keeping these. In my mind, if you look at that middle box, you know, in 2022 to 23, as well as 2020 to 2022, we had 190, 195 employees on the zero deductible plan. And we talked about that a lot last year, right? If you come down to this box, you know, you had a good split. You know, you're moving from $0 to $1,500 in deductibles or $1,000. That is a big, big win. And we'll see that data here in a couple months. I hope. The other question that we need to answer is, will the county continue with the HSA deposits like they did last year? You don't have to make that decision today, but we will have to make that decision.
I don't think, like,
It's a good play.
that's good. Yeah, and the transition went well, thanks to you. Yeah, as long as we
Food for
look
thought.
good on the budget here, I don't see any reason.
Okay, yeah, just food for thought. Just kind of think about that as we go through the process.
Mr. Chairman?
One thing you need to consider is if you're going to reduce benefits in any way, shape, or form, including eliminating the HSA, the collective bargaining units will have an issue with that.
I was saying,
We're reducing benefits.
Instead of where we're at.
Any other questions? Next page, again, I present this data every time I'm here. This is just additional. We have a couple more months under our belts. You can see the premiums paid versus the medical and pharmacy claims paid. And we're running right at, for the last 12 months, this is a rolling 12 months, we're running at a loss ratio of almost 100%. The graph below is just the same in graph form of what the numbers are on top. You can see we've got some really good months and some really bad months. Again, there's been talk about, hey, why aren't we self-insured? Why aren't we self-insured? Self-insurance is a great thing if you're disciplined and you have the programming and structure in place. We're not quite there yet. And you don't see the history here in that rightmost column of running at 70, 80% loss ratio. If you're running 70, 80% loss ratio on a fully insured plan, then you should consider self-insuring. We will absolutely solicit self-insured quotes. Some might quotes, most probably won't, given the loss ratio. It's too risky. Does that make sense? Again, same message that I've said for a long time. I think it's really, really changed that. One of the big factors next page is the high cost claimants. This is the most recent data. You can see there's quite a lot of high cost claimants. And again, one of the big data points of many data points, but one of the large data points is, hey, what is the likelihood of claimants going over a $50,000 claim? When you're self-insured, you're responsible for claims 50,000 and under, and then you buy insurance for 50,000 and over. They do the actuarial calculations on what the likelihood of you piercing through that. And you'd like to see this, they drill into the data. If you have a one-off high-cost claimant, that's okay. But if you've got chronic high-cost claimants, that's a little bit tougher to manage. Again, just a data point that they look at. Any questions? That next one is just more detail. And again, you can tell that there are more chronic conditions on the high cost claimants. That's just the point of that data is just you can see the kind of condition versus, kind of one off. Next page, I always kind of try to talk about this. Again, the difference between self-insured and fully insured and the pros and cons and risks and rewards of each. That is something that you guys have seen before. I'd like to have that in front of you in case the conversation comes up about it. If you're asked by your constituents or anyone else, it's just good information to have. in those conversations.
You know, if the county's ever been self-insured.
Yes.
For a number of years.
Long time.
I kind of figured it was a while back. That's ringing a bell with me, in fact. Maybe me too.
I don't know what year. Claims were much less, and that's why they didn't offer the claims increase so dramatically.
Um, next page, just kind of some ongoing things, the open enrollment, so we're going through the quoting process, the renewal process, the long road, once we decide on plan offerings and the carrier, we would have open enrollment. Of course, you need committee and board approvals for that. We have an online system for open enrollment. It works beautifully. If we stay with the same plan designs and the same carrier, open enrollment should be a piece of cake. Seeing it went really well last year. It would go even better this year because there's really no change. Last year, if you remember, we changed the renewal date from 10/1 to 1/1. We kind of had to do two open enrollment, it was a lot. This year would be very, much more smoother. Again, TBD. We still have ongoing monthly communications, trying to get employees more engaged on healthcare consumerism. Now that they have deductibles, it's worth it for people to shop. Remind them of the Good RX app, remind them of using the Blue Cross Shield app, the wellness programming, all kinds of things. Any questions?
What was the participation rate in screenings this year?
100? It was about 100 people.
You look like you had a question. Yeah, no? Okay.
A review, next page is marketing. This is basically the same information, only on the benefit side and a little bit different format. This was the marketing summary from last year. On all of the carriers we went out to. The results, the notes are there. The DTQ means decline to quote. Of the quotes we did receive, none were as competitive as the existing Blue Cross Blue Shield carrier. It's the same data that you're used to seeing. Is there any questions or anything I can elaborate on that?
There's been some conversation concerning going out and giving people enough time to submit a quote or RFP. And you and I did talk about that. Could you kind of give us some kind of info more on, are we doing the right thing or?
I believe you're doing the right thing, given the property casualty markets that we approached last year, we covered the marketplace. So you're a municipality, you're a county. There's thousands of insurance carriers, not all thousands of insurance carriers insure a municipality. It's kind of a small population. We went to every carrier I can think of that will contemplate quoting a county. Same on the benefits side. It's the same thing. There's insurance companies that won't do municipalities. You can see on there, we went to United Healthcare, we went to Aetna, we went to Cigna. These are names that you've heard of in the marketplace. We also solicited self-insured quotes. I don't think there's anything else out there that is going to give you a whiz bang savings. We talked about your loss ratios on the benefit side. We talked about the hazards on the P&C side. This is a pretty strong, long list of leaving no stone unturned in making sure that you're getting the best coverage, and I'm talking both property casualty and benefits, the best coverage at the best pricing available. That's my 2 cents. Hope that answers your question.
It did.
So any of these declined the quotes, did any of them decline because they didn't have enough time?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's the $1 million question.
So the property casualty quoting process is longer and more arduous, but the implementation is easy. We renew, it's just like, kind of like your homeowners. You look at it, you say, yeah, this is the value of my stuff. This is what I have. Great, you renew and you're kind of, all right. Property casualty, we need to look at exposures. How many employees do you have? What's your payroll? How many police cars do you have? What's the nursing home number of beds? It's a long process, but then the implementation, we're done. Flip side on the benefits, kind of an easier quoting process. All we need is the census and the claims and some details and the renewal. And then to implement it, to change plans, it's a long implementation. But it's the same principle in terms of quoting. You give carriers data, they underwrite that data, and they come back with, yeah, we can't touch this in terms of either your pricing's good or this risk is too risky for us, we don't. It's the same process.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions?
You have to understand, Ronnie, I agree with what she's saying,
I can do, I'm just asking.
but that's not what any of the discussion is about. The discussion that certain people are having is to say, we need to RFP for a different representative, not just, she represents Diamond Brothers. We need to have some, I can pick 3 or 4 different names. That's what their gripe is. I don't agree with their gripe because everything's being done here. But that's the sales pitch that you have to make to the people that are bending your ear. She's doing her job and they don't think she is.
It's not so much been in my ear. I'm hearing the same thing you hearing at county board meetings, we see emails and everything. So I reached out to Karen to ask that question. And have anybody even approached you concerning that issue?
Angela. Hey, I just want to put a plug in for Mutual of Omaha, because I grew up watching Wild Kingdom.
They would love your business. They're a very good ancillary carrier. The issue with Principal Standard, Mutual of Omaha, all of those are ancillary. Ancillary means dental, vision, it means non-medical, it means everything else but medical. Those were competitive, but then Blue Cross Blue Shield comes in and says, hey, if you do your ancillary and the medical, we'll give you 2% off your medical. And that math is still too good to switch to a mutual. They got, yeah. They got a lot.
If it's better for our employees and the county as a whole to do that, then that's
Well, my job as your agent is to talk about the marketplace, to educate you on insurance, and to go out to the marketplace and leave no stone unturned and present you with your option. Your job as the finance committee is to pick what you think is the best option. Of course, with my advice and input. That's my entire job. In addition to that, I'll pick on Georgia a little bit, but it's to answer all of the questions we get on a daily basis about whatever's going on in the county. Car accidents, trees falling down, work comp claims, the whole 9 yards. But there's a lot of day-to-day management as well. It's not just, you see me a lot during the quoting process. But what you don't see is the numbers of phone calls and we get questions and issues and advice, contracts, all kinds of things. The county does a lot. So, and insurance touches every single thing that you do. That's really all I have. Again, we just try to keep the employees engaged, try to get them more educated. We do field employee phone calls a lot in terms of coverage on the medical side. We walk them through lots and lots of things, any issues that come up in terms of I can't get my prescription filled, the carrier saying no. We dig into that and help them a lot. We're also trying to get them more engaged, get into wellness, show them the app, Blue Cross Blue Shield app, or any insurance carrier has a great app that we really just try to get them to use more and more to make them better healthcare consumers. And those are just ongoing everyday things. there anything else in your mind? Anything else I can answer? If you ever have questions outside of these meetings, take any phone calls, emails. I'm a big insurance nerd, so I'm happy to talk insurance anytime we like. Anything else?
You have any questions?
No,
I
thank you.
think it probably makes sense for you to plan on being here when we get the renewal.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, county administrator.
All right, Chairman Helms and I met with the city this morning for our monthly meeting. We discussed the completion of the Locust Street project and the ribbon cutting that was last week. We discussed their ongoing projects, and they are hoping to have the Adams Street project done by Thanksgiving.
No, thank you.
2 years in the making, but that is their goal date. They talked about what projects they still have on target, and that those projects will not be as vigorous in the upcoming years as this past year.
Just think about how pretty it's gonna be when it's all done.
But now they got new course tore up.
Oh, yeah.
That was, they're talking about the sewer upgrade on Iroquois too. We did discuss that today. We talked about some other property things. They were impressed with the numbers and reports that I've been sending monthly with the crime suppression unit. That was success, and they like it. We discussed some highway projects, some other courthouse repairs, what's planned to be completed before the end of the year. There is no Greater Freeport Partnership Board meeting in July, so I'll have more to report in August. Talked about the UCCI conference, the PowerPoints I did send out the end of last week for anyone who did not attend, or for people that were unable to attend some of the sessions. They did send those out. All of the strategic planning focus groups have met. Some of them have met 3 or more times already. Some are working on their second meeting, but they are all up and going. All leaders have been appointed and making progress on that. July 31st, Mr. Jogers joined me at the, it was put on by Region 1 for the broadband discussion for areas that could be accessible for broadband expansion grants. And those are going to be coming up bi-monthly updates with that. Wally has been giving weekly updates of work being done at the parks and the landings and general maintenance on those properties. Tomorrow, Mr. Copley and I will be in labor negotiations with the Sheriff's Department for, I think, the majority of the day.
Hopefully not till 4.
Department head meeting, we will have Ms. Whipple talk about the cancer screenings next month. We discussed the budget timelines, general questions. We talked about putting together an employee satisfaction retention survey, what types of tools and incentives and things they would find most valuable, so that we're looking for what we're hearing they want. And of course, we had a discussion on the upcoming health insurance renewal, and had a lot of favorable feedback on the HSA, and people that talked about their hesitation to move to that were happy with the plans. So, on this past Friday, Chairman Helms and I did meet with the purchaser of the lot at Millrace, and he presented information and plans for the site that he has purchased and what he is hoping to do. So, that is all.
What is our current employee turnover rate?
It's
It's skewed by a
department.
couple of departments that have much higher.
That would make sense.
Yes, nursing home probably has the biggest turnover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of longevity too. I recently ran the report. There's a number of people hitting 30+ years. A bigger number hitting 20.
Any questions?
I don't have a question. I talked with George and Scott, the city and county meeting. It seemed like all they do is just give information what each other was doing. It seemed like to me that we could do more than just sitting around and talking about what each other's doing. The city had approached us at least twice for help. I know that when I was at the city council, they had talked about trying to help with combining services and stuff like that. Could it be possible that could be included in the strategic planning of how the city and county could be able to work together more?
I don't see why the effective government subcommittee could.
When I thought about that, because I looked at it, I would say probably one thing could be the effective government.
Mhm.
Just want to run that past. Just think.
Since I am a part of that subcommittee, Mr. Bush, I would be happy to carry that thought over.
Okay.
I think that is something that there's no reason we shouldn't investigate that, because we could somehow combine forces in certain ways. It makes sense.
Okay.
If I could.
Yeah.
Think of it in the mindset of countywide.
Right.
It's power in numbers. So, but some of the smaller villages have a harder time
Right.
covering some costs, so might be able to do something countywide.
Any other thoughts? Thank you. All right. Hearing none, even if you couldn't make it tonight, she sent a draft update. So I'm just gonna read some of that. Hopefully everybody got a chance to look at that. As far as the audit goes, she said the treasurer and I have been constant contact with Sickich to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep the audit moving forward. Madam Treasurer, would you like to comment on that at all?
So still, as of this morning, submitting information about nursing home claims from 23. That's the holdup, is that our accounting system, it's not a normal thing in county government, municipal government, for bills to go unpaid that long. So our software just isn't equipped to spit out the kind of reports we need. So we have to, I literally have a box in my office. I have to pull every one of those out to cross-reference with a report that might be right. So it's agonizingly slow. But there's no other way to really do it. So it's, but again, we don't have this issue with any other department. So it's just been an ongoing struggle that I don't know how to fix, other than the remedy that we have basically invoked, the finance director and I, is that we drew the line in the sand in April, and we have this period 13 where we carry bills over for a short time, because of course you're going to be billed January, February for services that you may have gotten at the end of the year. Everybody does, to be expected, but not for a year and 3 months, or, we just can't continue to carry them as payables in years that have already been audited. And we can't close an audit year with unpaid bills in that year. So, right. So it's just, we're getting there, but it seems like when we think we've got the last bit of data we need, it's a nightmare we can't seem to wake up from, unfortunately, but I'm hopeful. I think we're shooting for September for everything, for the presentation to be before you. So, I wish I had, I wish I had better news. I'm sorry. It's just, we can't do any more. I mean, I spent 4 hours today just doing that. So it's which is fine, but It's just, that this is the only thing, our audit would have been done months ago. And
The
this-
answer to that is having enough revenue come in a timely manner to pay all the bills.
Correct.
When that's done, and
Question,
I'm
Chairman.
working on that.
For those bills you have in the box, whatever, can we scan those to make it more?
Well, they're scanned already, but I have to, basically, the way our software system works, once a bill's processed, it's, you have to undo it to go back and look at the scanned images. So it's,
Oh,
it's fine. It's fine. It, just to get to the level of detail, it really needs kind of eyes on, because the information that's entered when the claim is created versus the information added to it when it's processed, that's not all scanned. I would like to, when this is done, I'm asking someone from the nursing home to come and get all of that and take it away.
please.
I would think that should be in Jennifer's program, shouldn't it?
Yeah, she and I have discussed it,
I think
so yes.
so, thank you.
But otherwise, the audit looks great. I mean, I think everything else has come right along this year. I think people are getting used to the, what am I looking?
The portal.
The portal, and then the, what am I missing? The list that they provide us. Assets, yes. So I
That's
think,
new this year, yeah.
It was a couple of years, 2 years ago, but this year was,
there was just a little miscommunication, I think, as to what should have been on that list and what actually was. And I think that's all cleaned up. So that means it'll be even smoother going forward. So, I mean, and this auditor is they're just fantastic to work with. And much like Carrie, we don't use them just for audit. Whenever we have a financial question or we're not sure about how something should be categorized or paid or booked, they answer us immediately.
the responsiveness.
I mean,
Good deal.
and they suggest some, advanced training for us and workshops that might be valuable to us at no cost. So I can't sing their praises enough.
We get good service out of the folks
Yeah.
who do it, for sure. So on that, see the other thought, budget update, the only budget that passed out of committee was the Fund 020, the probation services fees. Dr. McGee requested that budget be passed this month because of the reporting requirements from the administrative office, of Illinois courts. So that was done, with the county's health and liability insurance costs not being set in stone. Reviewing the first drafts of the budget committee meetings this month is the way to go. Hopefully we'll have a better grasp on the costs of upcoming months. All departments have been instructed to use the 2024 amount as a placeholder for now. She spoke with several department heads to get numbers for the general fund revenue. Feels comfortable with the numbers so far and only have a few items remaining. The circuit clerk and Adrian had a conversation about the court fee revenues last week. We've not seen a drastic drop expected from the Safety Act, but she said it's coming because of the increase in waivers. So that may have an impact on into 2025. We decided to keep the revenue amounts the same going into 2025, though, since we do not know what the exact impact will be. And then lastly, she said she'll have a better idea of the overall budget picture once the sheriff enters his budgets into the teams. I think you had sent that out, Georgia, the actual spreadsheet that was as of, when you sent it. So obviously that'll change. If you don't have access to Teams, you need some help with that. I would suggest getting with Nate. He can help you out if you're not able to access the budget worksheet. And so be sometime this week, she's saying. So by the September meeting, we should have a good idea where we stand budget. Might have a fairly long meeting next month. So. Any thoughts on that? None. Moving on to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Jovers and Mr. Frick, I apologize for the repetition. So, a lot of the same information I did update a couple of things from Wednesday. So, first of all, financial report. If you have not seen it, this is July's. It was sent out to everybody Sunday evening, August 4th. Lots of good news, due mostly to that first tax distribution. Total county funds as of July 31st were up 1.5 million over June 30. So that's always good news, right? Another 6 investment vehicles matured during the month of July, earning the county over $117,000 in interest across 5 different funds. So trying to squeeze every penny interest out while we still can. As July ended, there were 7 other significant investments in place totaling over 5.7 million. So again, because it's all good news, I didn't know if anybody had any questions after reviewing this. Recall that the yellow page where the yellows happen is matured investments. And I really believe the most important page is page 4, which shows you over last month the difference. And it looks a little different than the first page, which is straight account reconciliation rather, but this shows the fund differences. So it's green, positive, again, 1.5 million over previous month. This month will be even better. So if you don't have any questions about that, I will go on. Yes, sir.
One question, bottom of page 4 talks about $1 million outstanding debt for the nursing home.
Yes, that
Where are
was
we at today?
today. I just sent them,
90%.
I sent out last night, I think, because I did pay over $130,000 of their bills. We're still over 8 million in the hole.
800.
I'm sorry, 800,000. I'm sorry. Sorry. Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
800,000.
800,000. Yes. Sorry.
Still, okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
And that is this, and when I include this in the report, that like literally like everything else in here is a snapshot in
changes,
time on that date.
Yep.
So it does change daily, and several of you know I send a report of daily banking activity. So the committee, several people know day to day exactly what's happening in those funds. So that dip down to the 800,000 plus is primarily because of the tax distribution, mostly because we also had another payroll and there's county health insurance. So that right there is $145,000 additional. So yeah, you'll always see that, but again, it's just the snapshot in time on the last day of the month. Right. Yeah, you're the first one who has, so thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Any other questions about the monthly report?
I appreciate you getting that out typically a week ahead of time. So we have a chance to
Yeah,
actually.
it was a crunch this time since we're a little early.
Appreciate it happened a few days.
Kind of had that realization a little late. So.
Thank you.
But so moving on to property tax. So as of the end of the day today, we have collected 52.46 million, which is 60% of the original amount levied countywide, which is great. First installment date came and went. I want to give you a quick update on the additional measures that we took to restore some civility amongst the public and reduce harassing behavior towards my team. So we had kittens and the reserve deputies, and they were both wildly successful. I mean, the environment in the floor was completely different. It was almost, I think I said this, almost festive. The reserve deputies were wonderful. They were engaging with the public. They greeted them. They said goodbye. They were just very, very friendly and engaging. And the kittens, you know, what can you say? I mean, everybody except Sheriff's would say, love the kittens. He suggests puppies next time, but you know, and it was just a completely different feel to the office. So we're going to repeat at least the kittens next time. But I want to say that there was one kitten that got adopted. So because of that, so everybody won.
Yeah.
So I think it was great. And we're going to incorporate that after talking with Kristen into more deadlines and due dates. You know, it's kind of working cooperatively. I mean, the number of people who walk through our offices, and just to expose them to, it's like the dogs from the court case. We have people asking every other day about those animals because they see the pictures. So we have some ability to at least increase exposure on things like that. So that's what we'll do. So, second due date coming up September 13th. Mobile home bills will be coming soon, later this month. Those payments will be due at the end of October. That's a very small revenue stream for the county. It's about $60,000. So we'll take it, but not a significant addition to the bottom line. So second distribution of property tax dollars went to all the districts. Remember, there's 105 of them last Thursday. Largest single distribution for the year. It was almost 33 million across all those districts. County received 4.05 million across all of its levied funds. And the breakdown of which is shown on this page that I've set at all of your seats. The top is the county's distribution, and you can see all of these pieces here are all components of the county's levy. So I did have a gentleman in today asking to see the VAC's settlement sheet, and he didn't quite understand that they don't have their own. They're wrapped into the county, as are all of these other entities. Down at the bottom, you'll see no races distribution, and that's actually distribution number 2. I'm sorry, I meant to change that to number 2. So that is also well above where we should be at this time. That one has a little bit left to earn, but we're ahead of the game in every possible way with property tax collections and distributions. So the next distribution will be September 6th, which is right before the next due date. It will be significantly smaller. And the other item we have happening right now, some of you may be familiar with it, every year in conjunction with our trustee agent, we hold a sealed bid auction of surplus property. This is the property that the county is trustee for. Mostly this year it is vacant lots. But these are the parcels that someone can bid a minimum of $835, and then it becomes theirs. And then we get it back on the tax rolls, hopefully with the new responsible owner who will continue to pay taxes. That is happening now. The minimum bid is still $835, and the deadline is August 23rd. So perhaps in September, more likely in October, there will be another list coming before you of surplus resolutions to approve. Anyone have any questions? That's all.
I was gonna say, I got a list.
Yeah, that's coming up. That's different.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions? Move on then. Actually, old business, we have no new business. Speaking of which, approval of sale of surplus.
All right. So I just want to, if you don't mind, me just giving you a little bit of information. So you have 12 total parcels here, 10 of which were sales to the city. My conversations with Mr. Duckman, they have, I'm not sure of the amount of grant funds, but they're looking to pursue demolition with respect to most of those parcels. So we try to, with any municipality, no matter where it is in the county, work with them so that they get it at the minimum bid, and then then it's taken care of, it's pulled out of the auction, and they can apply whatever remedies they have in mind. That's the case for 10 of these properties. 2 of them, I just wanted to highlight for you and recommend, of course, that you approve them, are reconveyances. And those are parcels by which the owners lost the property and have since repaid everything due, worked with our trustee, and they are reconveying the title back to those owners. And they are all caught up, all good.
Very cool.
And, you can see the amount of money that's coming back to the county. So for 12 parcels, almost $9,000, which is $9,000 we would not have otherwise. I
So
always recommend the passage of these. So.
this is gonna go around everybody to sign. This is just a document stating what he just told. I would entertain a motion to approve this.
So move.
Have a motion. Second. Have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Approval of bid for HVAC for health department. Hopefully, you guys saw that in late. And I think it was going to give us the lowdown on what's going on.
Brian. So we have, we put out a bid to replace the VA controllers and thermostats in our HVAC system, the upgrades. The reason for that is because they are outdated. There's no replacement parts for them anymore. They're pretty much done. And so Honeywell suggested, these probably need to be updated to our newest our newest parts. So we put the bid out. I pulled it all together and put it out on May 31st. We advertised the bid in the Freeport Journal Standard from June 1st through June 7th. The bids were due back by June 24th, and then we had an open bid on, I'm sorry, a public opening on June 25th. We received 3 bids. Honeywell, sorry. Honeywell, GF Automation, and Leshers, I believe. They ranged in bids from 53,000 to 62,221. The recommendation was to go with Honeywell, which is the highest bid at 62,221, but it is because they have been maintaining the system since the health department moved into that building. If another part were to break, we would still have our relationship and our agreements with them, so that we would have to then figure out what we're going to do about other parts. It just, to me, is a good fit. We have their relationship with them. They've been maintaining this system. These are their parts, so they know how to replace them if needed and do any work if we have any issues in the future. Question?
Carrie, I noticed on here, we've got the Honeywell bid, but then Leshers also quoted Honeywell equipment.
So there were
Or
Leshers and
Ivy control.
right. So Leshers gave us 2 quotes. One would be if they used the Honeywell parts, and then one if they didn't, if they used their own manufacturer. The difference though is that if we go with someone else to replace, if we go with Leshers, for example, to replace the VAP controllers and the thermostats, and then we're still having Honeywell maintain the rest of the system, and then something happens with these controllers, and now we've got 2 different companies that we have to work with on one HVAC system. So that was,
Just wanted to make that clear,
No,
because it was a little
yeah.
bit less with the Ivy.
I know, it was.
Not much.
Even the GS automation, I believe, is Honeywell control.
And same thing, they have the parts. But again, we'd be dealing with 2 different companies.
Chairman, is there a warranty service agreement with either of these companies?
Honeywell, we already have a warranty service agreement based on, I mean, from what I understand from what's happened in the past, that's been continuing. I don't know about the other 2 companies. Good question.
Was it discussed at all with either of these other companies to take over the maintenance of the entire system? going forward? I did one.
When I first came in, my understanding was this was already done. Honeywell's deal. I have Leshers. I honestly didn't talk too much. I will say GS Automation, he came in, he spent hours at the department looking at everything and discussing it. He understands the issue with now having to work with 2 different companies. He said that they could do whatever they could do to only have to work with them, but it would cost more money, obviously, than if we had to replace more things. That's why I understand it. He was great, though. I mean, he was very thorough. It's just unfortunately that Honeywell owns the rest of the system, so that's the hard part.
So your recommendation is to go with the Honeywell bid for $62,221.74. So I would entertain a motion to that effect. Because I believe we already allocated this. Right? Remember?
ARPA funds.
Yeah.
To the budget.
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Is there any issue with the date on Honeywell?
Date.
Yeah, the quote expires on the 31st of December 23.
Right, it's the original bid. I guess.
Original
So
quote.
just resubmitted the original
Yeah.
bid.
They resubmitted the original quote as it.
But there's no issue with that.
It sounds like it. So
I mean, they've been in contact with me all along.
And they submitted it, so.
Yeah, they keep asking me when they can start. New way, you're not here yet.
So, Chairman, did any repair that costs more than $10,000? Do you have any estimate? In 53,000 and the 62 that's Honeywell, 9,000.
I do not have that information.
It's an interesting point. We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the Honeywell bid. There's obviously an alternate bid that's a lower cost, but it's going to cause some potential issues with workability and potential repair costs. And well, we don't know what those are, as Mr. said. Why don't we, I mean, Honeywell's obviously a reputable company. If we enter into a contract with them, we're not going to have any major issues. But that is a fair chunk of change. And if you were happy with the way this person presented the work, it does make me question, well, it's not really, I don't know, from my perspective.
Proper to lay it over until we get more answers.
Well,
What specifically are you looking for?
yeah,
Just the difference in the cost?
The cost and repair costs, we get some kind of estimate on that down the road, possibly by the company.
Is that the only question or are there others?
That's the only question I have.
So I'm sorry, I'm asking, what they would anticipate if there were,
Yeah, replacement costs that aren't under warranty and are just the labor type thing that they have to do.
You're looking for their, how much they charge per hour. and things
Yeah,
like that.
that.
Where are they located? It's
they're
GSI.
located in Rockford, I believe.
It's GSI.
Can I ask one more question? As far as accessing ARPA funds, when does that paperwork have to be done?
26. Has to be spent by 26, has to be allocated 24. What you can also do is you can pass this on to the county board with a list of questions for Carrie to get answered before the county board meeting or by the county board meeting. If it solves whatever questions you have, you can move on and vote on Thursday. If not, you can wait with that.
I have to understand the question. I don't quite understand what your point is here.
Well, you're looking at $9,000. Is any kind of work, labor wise, whatever, down the road gonna equal that amount per se? How long is it, good are the modules that they're gonna put in? Like their hourly costs, that type of thing. Next 5 years, or it's supposed to be a good time to look at it.
I'm still confused on, I mean, it's a price for a product that we're gonna put in that is gonna be under warranty. What, the $9,000, you're looking at what other benefit are we getting out of the 9,000?
Yes, that's
Okay.
Well, we don't know what the warranty is right now. That's the other thing, we don't know. They didn't specify.
yeah, that would be one thing to understand is what the equipment warranties are in the sky. But being somewhat, I mean, I'm not in the building automation business, but understanding this to a certain degree, I don't necessarily understand. So you're going to have, there's more than one part to the system. You're replacing part of the overall system.
Yes.
So then the other part is not getting replaced, and that's what's causing the issue.
Correct.
And we don't know, and again, to me, it would make sense to at least ask GSA the question, what would it cost to engage you in the management of that side of the system as well? And eliminate the contract with Honeywell on that once it expires. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And then if you save $9,000 on this, and instead of renewing the contract with Honeywell, which let's say that's another 10,000, and GSA is only going to charge us $5,000 for that, well, then maybe that shifts the balance to say, maybe it makes sense. You know, especially if you were happy with what you saw from the individual that took their time. Again, nothing against Honeywell.
Does that exceed the scope of the RFP, original RFP? Could that be problematic?
If it wasn't in the RFP, yeah.
Pardon?
If it was not listed in part of the RFP, yes.
That's all bidders that.
Yeah, and I'm not making it part of this. Well, what I'm saying is in the background, just like what Mr. McLean said, you know, trying to understand the effect of the other part of this,
I understand,
right?
but if you're looking for that information prior to making a decision on this, that probably should have been included in the RFP.
Because it could affect the pricing. and-
Absolutely, it could.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm not telling you not to do
No,
it.
I understand.
What's in front of you. That wasn't part of the scope.
What is the impact to your facility if this gets laid over for a month or two while continuing to investigate?
And it's been laid over for a while, from what I understand, it's the timeline is more based on access and art, what was approved for us for ARPA.
Right.
So we want to get them in, get it done so that we can then, get reimbursed from those funds. That's more the time concern that I have then.
But it's not that something's not working and everything's still functioning. Okay.
We've already allocated these dollars.
Right.
It's already been reported. So as long as it's spent before the end of 26. Not that I'm advocating to wait that long.
Right.
But
we've got a little time. We don't have to do it right this second.
We could talk about it Thursday, so we get the
Get some
warranty
answers.
information and possibly the charges for after the warranty. Gallery pieces.
Yeah, I'd like to know why that's such a big difference. That's a pretty hefty difference in cost. It's almost 10 grand.
So I have a question then for either George.
Yes, sir.
Um, If you're gonna talk to one company in the light of what we already have with an RFP, are you gonna have to go talk? Then what are we doing? Are we gonna
You'd have to redo the whole thing.
redo the RFP?
Let's do this. We've got a motion and a second on the floor. If nobody's gonna offer an amendment to that motion or a second, we'll take a vote to move it forward to the county board with the understanding that we're gonna request some additional information. That's a good idea.
So I'm only, sorry, let me clarify. I'm only requesting information from the company from Rockford on what they would charge additionally for any repairs, whether it's hourly wage or whatever, and what their warranty would be.
We need to know the equipment warranty from both things. Yeah.
from the bidder that you made the motion to accept, right?
Why wouldn't we want that from all of it?
Because
You
you
just made a motion to
accept.
approve one.
And
So
then
we can't,
make a motion to amend the layover.
Well, just retract your first and your second. And start over.
I remove myself.
Then we should have done that right, but I guess I'll walk away from it. You guys got to follow some procedure here once in a while. He had a motion and a second in discussion. Now you can follow his motion. It overrides it if you want to lay it on the table. But this way of doing this is really way off kosher. But we do that a lot.
well, hang on a minute. We had a motion and a second.
Now we don't.
And those were both rescinded. Is that what I just heard? Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to either lay this over or
I move to lay it over for 30 days.
I'll second.
have a motion and a second to lay it over for 30 days? Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
The point here probably is going to be, why are we laying it over? Now you're going to ask questions of several companies. The point would be now, you don't like what you got in your RFP, you might as well redo the RFP rather than lay it over.
The RFP won't be done here. It's done at the health department.
Right.
Uh,
I'm sorry, can I also say our Board of Health did approve this last Thursday, so I don't want it to seem like we ignored our own oversight committee as well.
right,
So to go back and have to rebid all of this, then have to go back to them before it came to.
what did they say about the difference in cost? Was there any discussion around that? Consider it, sir.
I think just the argument that Honeywell has been working with us all this time.
And we really don't know what we're going to get. Well, in light of that, either do you want to continue with these motions to lay it over, or would you like to rescind those and go back to square one?
Just vote on it.
Vote on it. Not happy with it, take a vote against it.
Let's take a roll call.
Wayland,
Aye.
Well,
An aye vote is to lay it over for 30 days.
Aye. No. Yes.
No.
Twenty-two.
Vote is two. Okay. In light of that, I think, yeah, Steve, I think you hit it on the head, though. I don't see how we do this without her having to go out for another RFP. Help me understand why we can't just ask some additional.
Okay.
Outside of.
You've already voted on this.
Right.
So we really shouldn't be probably having a whole lot more discussion. You voted to lay this over.
Understood.
What I would recommend is you get with Carrie, talk about what you're looking for, because all you did is laid over the recommendation from the health department. to
It's still
approve
there.
it.
We'll talk.
I just asked a question. Thursday night, will it still go in front of county board?
That's,
What I need from you?
thank you. I had another question for you before you take off. On our other discussion. You got a few minutes or you got?
What's my babysitter?
Okay. We're almost done.
Okay.
So committee chair reports, I don't really have anything else. I'm gonna go ahead and on Nicole's committee, we had, an approval on one of the, contract agents,
Therapy services.
therapy services. One thing I will mention, much to treasurer's consternation about being able to pay our bills. I've talked to, I don't know if you guys folks remember this or not, but we got a report from Mr. Filippo on the fact that our revenue stream is very similar to much of the other county-owned nursing homes throughout the state. I have since talked to at least 10, maybe 11 of those other administrators and or business office people. And I also did an AR review with someone just to get kind of just some other opinions about how the FICA works, how these things transpire on a normal basis. Typically, when you have your act together as a nursing home, 40 to 45 days is very typical, depending on the billing matrix that you have. You know, if you're more heavily weighted towards private pay, it might be lower than that. If you're more heavily weighted towards Medicare and Medicaid, it might be a little bit longer than that, but typically it's 40 to 45 days. Our revenue cycle right now, as most of you have seen, whether or not you've seen that AR report from TCM, is typically, 90 days plus, and then we've got about half of our outstanding revenue more than 6 months old. And that's something that I'm very focused on trying to improve right now and making some efforts toward that. So we'll see if we get it. just FYI, because I think that will help alleviate some of the concerns she has. And now that Marcus is in place, hopefully that will solidify that position. And, we can see some marked improvements in bringing it to, that's what I was. So that will take care of finance and nursing centers. Administration, anything you guys?
We talked about a few things, but I don't know that we need to bring them up here again. I think we're good. We got a nice report out of the effective government subcommittee. Like they're did quite a bit in the first meeting. So moving along pretty good, I thought. So other than that, we talked a little bit about this assessment meeting that Saturday. I don't know how that went,
It actually went very well.
but well, okay, good. So that was one of the concern that I did. I'm glad it turned out okay. So should be all I have.
Thank you. Public property and safety.
Sheriff, we have, Sheriff Stovall had 4 guns he confiscated during a traffic stop. He had 2 pistols. One was fully automatic with an extended magazine. The LPR system, Home Group is still going to install them. They're waiting on Home Group. The doors to the elevator have to be retrofitted because the dimensions are not what they are in normal manufacturing now. They have to be retrofitted. And the HVAC and the air handlers at the courthouse are broken down. So we're getting that HVAC system, hopefully will get up and running and won't have these kind of problems anymore. And the audiovisual system, the painting, the lighting is all at the county boardroom. That's being done shortly. And there's a cleanup of the landscaping around the courthouse and the monuments. They're looking pretty good. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Court services, Mr. Bush.
Very light, we did approve, for the probation department. Also to run over the budget, so.
All right, thank you, sir. Planning and development.
I would ask that you would look through the Greater Freeport Partnership documents that Georgia sent out. Kind of talks about what's going on there as far as manufacturers' days and job fair. And today, if you had the opportunity, there was open house at Honeywell. So good things going on there. And I did want to piggyback on one thing for Mr. Yogers. Nate was pretty excited about some of the things that are going on in the courthouse and the county boardroom that we'll be able to see. So,
I actually went to the open house in Honeywell today.
Did you?
It was pretty cool. Yeah, I've been in that building 25 years. Looked a little bit different, but a lot the same. Huge. Pretty interesting. Talking to folks I hadn't seen in a long time. Public Works.
So construction season 2024 is in the wind down mode. Very busy and active year. Lots of good things have happened, and maybe with a little stroke of luck, we might even be able to extend the Cedarville project a little bit. So all good things to report. Highway Department has put together phenomenal work to put their budgets together. The budgets are looking good already. We tabled them because last year they made some minor tweaks. We still have a union contract that needs to be negotiated, and of course the health thing with Ms. Ratnick, right, was still an unknown too. So we had multiple reasons to table it, but all in all, that budget's already in very good shape. Animal control, on the other hand, is not in very good shape. It's going to need a lot of help. I am prepared to talk about it today or not, but the current version of the budget, version 1.0, if you will, is a $62,000 difference between revenue and expenses. It's been a long time coming. Back in 2016, the ending account balance for the animal control was $52,000. I do not, that's before my time, so I don't remember what caused that or how it got there, but it's been a slow, steady decline since then. We had ARPA money last year, not ARPA money, ARPA interest money last year that was deposited into the fund, Fund 16. Half of it went in, the other half had to go in as well for early this month. So I do anticipate a cash carry forward, I think, for 2024, but it's not going to be enough to get us through the shortfall of 2025.
So are you making the plan to present that from a budget standpoint of the need, what you're gonna need? I mean, you're gonna have to just ask for what's needed. We'll have to see if we can.
I think we're going to need 50,000 and then some changes in how we might think about revenue accumulations. So more emphasis on donation and fundraising. We raised our the registration tags earlier this year. That has helped. Our revenue is above last year's revenues at this point in time during the year, but our expenses are up even more. So that's where our problem is coming in. So no easy answers, let's say it that way. Someone like to have the information, take home and read over and have.
Thank you, sir. Anything else, public comment?
I make one interesting comment as we look at finances along the way. The city of Freeport introduced, their 1% additional sales tax. And one of our retailers here in Freeport, I'm working with them on some things, but interestingly is watching between their store in Freeport and their store in Monroe, just to compare what's actually going on and how much that will change as we look at border hoppers along the way and what's happening. So when I get further information on that as we go through the year, I'll let you know.
It's pretty easy to run north if you need some stuff.
So, yeah.
Mr. Bush?
Oh.
So move. All right, second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I've been getting